You will think that you need to think. You've been taught to think. And I come along and say, stop thinking. I've even done a tape. How to stop thinking. There's people writing to me already. Terrible reactions happening inside them. What's happening? I'm worse than I ever was since I've been listening to your tape. I'm worse. I can't stop thinking. Where am I? Please help. I've written a tape, How to Stop Thinking, and he asked me for help this last letter I got. But he is very real, you see. It is very true, because what is happening inside of him is a reaction from the thinker. The thinker is an entity inside of you who has had its way for thousands and thousands of years. A continuity of thought has been going in genetically in every human being. It's not just an entity here or there. This is a whole entity of evil that wants to use your beautiful intellect to think in. And you have to be God enough to say, end. You are not going to possess me anymore. And the poor channelers are going to mislead you more, because the channelers are all possessed by some thinker, aren't they? They are psychically possessed. This beautiful brain and body is invaded by something that has no body. Possesses this beautiful brain and body to make you people think instead of being. Whereas the Master is responsible for this body and this position in space and time, as you are in that body. These imposters, these poseurs are not responsible for anybody. Not responsible for life or truth or anything. Just disappear, you know. When the going gets tough, if one of them appeared in front of me, you wouldn't find him there for long. He would disappear. He could not stand the heat. No psychic master will ever appear in front of me and my fellow man to hear the truth that comes out. None. They will make plenty of criticism if they do from the outskirts, but only for a while, not for long, for I am onto them. I am here to clean that out too. For they invade you through their channelers, and they make you think instead of being. This is all part of the tribal magic you are trapped in. Man has not progressed one iota. He only thinks he has. You can have all the motor cars and all the spaceships you like. You haven't moved one iota, for everything is precisely as it ever was. You are possessed, and only you can free yourself of this possession. Now, so that I don't sound extremist, what are you going to do when you go outside the door? And what are you going to be doing either tomorrow or tonight or the next couple of days? You'll be worried, won't you? It is inevitable that you will be worried, or you will be depressed, or you will be gloomy, or you'll be unhappy. It is utterly inevitable. I can predict it now. You cannot avoid it, because you still allow yourself to be possessed. But all night long, you and I together, by the grace of God, have been working on that situation. And the reason that you come to me is to get a reflection of the truth, so that it makes you know that you were right. You have known for a long time what I have been saying. You've seen it. Okay, it gets covered over and you rationalize it out. And especially you have a few discussions and you get onto another therapy or some other teacher or something. But you have known what I say. And you do not want me to let up on you. Even though you fight and kick and scream, you do not want me to let up on you, and I shall not. I promise you that is one thing I shall not do while I am in this body. I will not let up. And you will go your way, those of you who do, and you will go and find the masters who give you what you want. But this is what you want. You want yourself. I will give you only yourself. Anyone else have a question?
It's like the I that I know is constantly threatened by the thinker coming in. Is it my choice just to keep them out?
Yes. Yes, it is not your choice, it is your will to keep him out. But while he is willful, his willfulness is stronger than your will.
The thinker's willfulness.
He's willful. He says, I must think about this. You might have a look at this. This is how subtle it is. And apply this to your life and just see this. If you have ever tried to give up thinking, the thinker will say it was the bank, how much money you had at the bank. Just let's say it was this. The thinker will actually say, you've got to think about this. You've got to think about it. You've just got to. It'll become an imperative, and which if you looked at, you don't need to think about it because there is no application of it to life. It does it for entertainment because the thinker gets strength by thinking.
That's why it's like being possessed by something.
It is possession. We must not get the word wrong because no one wants that word, you see. The channelers don't want to think that they're possessed. They like to think they have a choice, but I'll tell you now, any channeler who's been channeling hasn't any choice anymore. It's like a drug addict. Oh, I can kick it. I don't need this. Or whether it's drink or other drugs. I don't need it, but I'm afraid. You give it up and let's see. You get hooked. So it is with thinking. We are hooked, possessed, obsessed by it. Now the only way to stop thinking is what you're doing now. You're not thinking now. You have to feel your freedom from thought. You must feel it, you see. You've got to ground it in something. If you just think, I'm not thinking, you're finished. You'll soon start to think. You've got to ground it in the good. Now it is good inside of you. I'm just speaking to everyone, but I'm speaking to you. Is it good inside of you now?
It's good inside of me, but I know I hold this ground for a very short time, all the time. And there is this possession to fight, and I want to know that it's my choice that this thing coming along and possessing me.
You can keep.
Every time I check out inside, he comes along and possesses me. And is it by my invitation he comes?
Yes.
And
Well, he's always beating at the door.
What sort of training do I need to send him off?
Right. Right, how you feel yourself now at this moment? Right, then you stay like that every moment. Now that's not difficult, is it? It's you, isn't it? That's not difficult, is it? You walk out the door. Now if you...
They always say, it's not difficult, but it's
It's only difficult because you are looking to think about what I said or what someone said. It's only difficult because you're looking for some reference point. You must not look for any reference point because you are the point. Here it is now. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it so simple? Can you all feel yourself now, the life in you, the being of yourself? You know, it's there, isn't it? This is where you feel the love of your partner, your mother, your father. It's all the same love in there. It has different facets, but it's all the same love. You can feel it there. It's empty now, right? Empty of thought. Because you can't be listening while you're thinking, you see. So if you're listening now, you're present with it. Now what's going to make you leave that? Whatever are you going to think about that's worthwhile? Now you've got to see that, you see. You've got to see, no, I don't need this. And as you walk out the door, you've got to actually walk out the door. I mean, you mustn't walk as though you've got a jar on your head that's going to overbalance. But that's how it is in the beginning. You feel as though I'm going to lose this any second. And as soon as you get tight like that in fear, the thinker uses that energy, which is an emotion of tension, and starts to think. So you must stay easy. You must walk outside and look at the cars and look at the wall and look at the stairs and have no thought. You walk around like that, you see. No thought. No thought. Now you've got to practice that.
So it's practice.
Well, practice is being and being is practice, is it not? Because I don't like to practice suggests a future. But the way I teach, practice is being and being is practice, isn't it? Now, there's no time in it. So there's no path. Right, we got it. You see, the more that we question and look at this, every moment we are teaching the entire universe this that is afflicted by the possessive thought. Yes?
Might I ask, when if you have no thought, how do you apply putting the seminars together and the other things?
Quite easy. I look, just like you do your job all day. How do you do your job all day? You look. You look at what needs to be done. All you do is look at the office desk. I'll tell you, if you were to walk into your office tomorrow morning and look at the desk, you would see what has to be done. You wouldn't have to think about it at all. Because someone would come over, if you weren't sure, someone would shove something in your hand. And you'd look at it, wouldn't you? You wouldn't have one thought about it, would you? They put it in your hand, you look to see what it is. Oh, it's that report. Yes, what's got to be done? You look. The report will tell you what's got to be done, and you'll look and see what resources you've got to solve the problem. You look. Just as if you're crossing the road thinking, you'll get knocked down. If you cross the road looking, you're safe. Just as safe as anyone, isn't it? Is that clear? Good. Yes.
I think you're saying that just don't think big. I can understand what you mean there. Probably like everyone else, difficulty doing it. And another side of that is, in order to do that, in order to be free of our mind, we need to understand the nature of our mind. I mean, is that do we need to understand how your mind works?
Not anymore. No, that's all old teaching. You see, the mind has been studied, thank goodness, due to Krishnamurti and many of the Eastern teachers, and Ramana Maharshi and Maya Baba, and all the Western teachers as well. The mind has been studied enough. Now, this is all in you. You are not isolated. Even if you've never read a book by any of those masters, the truth is in you. You are not isolated. Every bit of truth on this planet is in every one that I am with. For I bring that truth up from within you, only because I talk about God and life and truth. That's the only reason. Not that I'm working any magic. It's just that when you hear someone, a man who has realized God, talking about God or life, which talking about yourself, you come up. You know, the great depths of you comes up into the brain. I come up into the brain, right up into my senses to hear about myself. I purify myself in that body. So, all the old teachings you have learnt, they have happened in you. Now the new teaching, because I am master of the times, and you will hear this repeated by many people. Once I start saying it, they all start saying it. You know, everyone's teaching everything. But I leave it all behind because I'm always new. I've always got something new. Because we are going on. We are the human race. And I am responsible for the truth in front of me. So you have the power. You have a power in you now because you are with me. More power than you have ever had, and you don't have to think about it. If you endeavor to be without thought, you will have more success in it. You'll be more powerful. That's these times. Because these times are so ignorant, so utterly material, there is always an opposite to that, where the greatest man-made ignorance is, the possibility of transformation, self-transformation is tremendous. Where the ignorance was not as, where there was much more life, and where the ignorance was not as finely tuned as it is today, as externalized in motor cars. See, every motor car is ignorance that's been externalized out of the human beings. every invention, the electric lights, all those scientific inventions are ignorance that's been externalized. So although it's externalized and man made man's living much more complicated in a rat race in which there is no love, because of all these inventions, there's no love, there's less and less love, because they're taking up all the space. I mean, who sits in the car without listening to a tape or the radio? That's all ignorance that's been externalized. Once, when all that was inside of man, he was more in touch with the earth and the goats and the trees and the rains, and he looked at as the shepherd looked at the stars. No one looks at the stars anymore unless it's a brief glimpse, you know. And then you go and watch the old telly. And there's nothing wrong with watching the telly. You've got to know what's happening. So man was more in touch with the earth, and he felt something moving inside of him. And it was all the motor cars and aeroplanes. And so he got busy and busy and busier, and now he surrounded himself with every magnificent invention and says, look, we can do anything. But there's no love in his life, less than he ever had. But by the way of things, when things are at their worst, there is a way through that is much quicker and immediate, such as when the drunk, or whoever it might be, is lying in the gutter in his own vomit, and he says, I am finished, Lord God, whoever you are, I am finished, I give up. I have no hope. At that moment, he is closer to God and the possibility of instant transformation than ever before. So that's where we are. So the thing is, though, you must not think about what I am saying. Do you hear this, man and woman? We are now on to the practical. Not that it hasn't been practical all night, but you must not think about what I am saying, because if you think about it, you short-circuit it. You have received. As I say, that the wisdom of all the prophets and all of life is inside of you now. Don't think about it, it's there. So this evening is inside of you now. All the value of this evening is inside of you. Don't think about it. You don't have to. Then you will be reminded to be. You will be reminded by the energy of I, the God within you, to be. And then you'll have the power, more power than before, to be. To drop it from you. As the thinker says, you've got to think about this, you've got to do this, you've got to. You just say, I don't need to. Now it will feel so compulsive that you might give in to it, but if you look at it, what have you got to think about? You know, have a good think now. Yeah, right? Have a good think before you go out the door now. So what have you got to think about when you go out the door? Take the invitation. Think really about the most important thing you've got to think about. And of course the answer is, you've got nothing important to think about at all. Now, is that the truth? You see, you've got to see the truth, and that gives you the power when you start to see through it. Is that all right, Gan? You must be like you are now, Gan, and don't try to think about it. You must know what you are doing, Gan. You are not thinking, is that true? Look into your body and see that you are not thinking. Are you not thinking, Gan? You're not thinking, is that true?
I can have moments of not thinking.
Yeah, but now, are you thinking? No. Right. Now you must all see what it feels like to be not thinking. Right? Now would you do it that way so that you're consciously not thinking? Well, you're not, are you? You could feel yourself, feel your body, and you're not thinking, you're listening. Now say you walked up the road just listening and feeling yourself. You'd see the traffic, wouldn't you? You wouldn't, no car would hit you, would it? You know? And you wouldn't run into a light post, would you? Because you're not thinking. You see, you'd just be looking. Now you've got to know that you're not thinking, and that gives you the power to say, well, it's easy. And if you lose yourself in thought, or suddenly you won't. But if you come back and think that you've been thinking, don't get discouraged by it. Just be again. I'm not thinking now. In the moment that seeing that you have been thinking, you're not thinking then, are you? You see? But what we do is we think, oh, I've been thinking, oh my God, and that makes you think again. This is how you get the power. You are not thinking, are you? You see what it feels like not to be thinking? Right? It's so ordinary. I know it's terribly ordinary, but God's terribly ordinary, you know. It's amazing how simple God is. And life is, isn't it? Feel the life in you? Very simple, isn't it?